Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Travel Creator Podcast. If you are new here, hi, I'm Laura. I'm a content strategist for travel creators, and I basically help them catch flights and not fleeting trends. We make content over here on this side of the internet so much easier because your life is not meant to be spent editing the 0.5 on your video that is just like so annoying. It is meant to be looking at the Caribbean and climbing volcanoes and eating a shit ton of really good food. So if that sounds like, you want to do that and you want to learn how to make your content not so overwhelming so you can do those things, you're in the right place. But today we get to talk about one of my favorite things ever, how to create a newsletter you will finally be consistent with, okay? This is something that is wildly important, newsletters, but we will get into this. I digress. I'm happy you're here. Welcome, welcome. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see that I am comfy cozy. I'm comfy cozy in bed. You know why? Because I am experiencing right now the 5th, maybe 6th snowstorm of the past 4 weeks. And frankly, I have had enough. So let's get into it. Okay, before we can talk about how to be consistent with a newsletter, I need you to understand what a newsletter is, which you probably already do, but I think there's a lot of misconception with that because we think newsletters have to be super overwhelming, and they don't. So a newsletter is a way for creators like yourself to share with their audience in a space on the internet that they actually own. And I will get into what actually owned space on the internet means, but for now, a newsletter is also a piece of content that comes out in a consistent rotation. So we know when to expect it. We know when it will go out. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's twice a month. We will break it down and get into a consistent cadence later on in this episode, but choosing that cadence will become super important later on. And honestly, it's more about you than what you think your audience wants, because they just want you to be consistent and they don't really care how. So it's up to you to decide that. A newsletter is also where you can leverage brand collaborations. This is also a place where you can share directly with your audience and earn far more money than you ever could on social media. The ROI is insane. The ROI is $36 back for every $1 you spend in email marketing, and it just outpaces social media. It just like runs laps around social media. So like I said, what does it even mean to actually own your content? Have a little analogy for you here that I would love if you entertained for me. So imagine you have a boat. Okay. I thought this was me. Turns out I get horribly seasick. So I think the boat dream is kind of subsided. But you have this boat and you've spent all this time learning how to care for a boat. You've watched all the YouTube videos on boat things. You've bought all the courses on how to create a boat, how to use your boat to the best of your abilities, how to care for it. You are following all the best practices. You're asking your friends who have boats. You're asking your friends who have docks. You're asking your friends who are fisher people, all this stuff. This boat has become the boat, okay, that all of your friends come to, that everybody knows about. And like when people think of a boat, they're like, oh my God, yeah, Laura, she has a boat. Yeah. Their friends start to come hang out on this boat. Like this boat is like the boat, okay? Like think of like Fire Island. Is it Fire Festival? You remember that? Like think of the boats that they like were advertising as like people partying on those boats. Like that's your boat. So things are going swimmingly, pun absolutely intended. And one day you're like, fantastic. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to head out. I'm going to go hang out on the boat. See, who's around, who wants to come with me. You get out there and your boat is gone. There is no boat. Who even knows where it's floated to? Maybe perhaps it's like hit an iceberg in the Bahamas, some freak thing. All of this effort you've put into your boat, into learning about it, into making it an incredible experience is over. It's freaking gone. We can't even see it. Like imagine... Who would you even call in that situation? Like, what do you even do? Do you think AAA works like that? The point of this entire sort of analogy is that I want you to listen to this again, but replace the word boat with online community. So you've taken the time and the steps to learn all of the things, and then all of a sudden your community can be gone. I don't really want to scare you. I really hate the idea of like fear mongering, and I just want to be honest with you. But if you don't know, you don't own your social media content. And we don't know what these massive tech platforms are thinking or what their next move will be. We have no idea. They might start charging. It's probably not a might, but when they start charging for us to use these platforms, that can pose barriers as well. But we just don't know what they're thinking. We don't know their next move. And honestly, there are so many accounts on these platforms that if one of them were gone, if one of them got cut off like your boat did, what's it to them? Why should they freaking care? They know somebody else is going to sign up and start using the account because there's millions of people who already have. Why should they care about helping you get back your account? And most importantly, the community you have spent hours, weeks building. Another statistic I want to share with you that is unsettling is that there are 50,000 Instagram accounts that get hacked every year. That comes out to about 1 every 10 minutes. Do you think Meta can handle the quantity of a person reaching out about every 10 minutes to ask about their account that's gone black? No, they cannot, nor do they even give a shit, okay? They don't care about our corners of the internet. And I think holistically, when we step back, that is kind of obvious, right? Like, why should they care? Why should they care? It's a free platform. They're scraping our data to sell to advertisers. It's an entire surveillance community. That's like a whole nother thing I'm passionate about, but I will digress that conversation for a later date. But they leave it up to us to take charge of owning our community and protecting the corner of the internet we have spent so much time building. It has become a place we love our community. We love creating content for them and sharing for them and getting to know these people. And the fact that these platforms are just like, yeah, you can come use it for free. Okay, have you ever had a great experience using getting something for free? It's like, think of swag you've gotten. That shit's always bad. That shit, you throw that shit out. You're like, great, this is going right to the donation pile. Or I'm going to find someone to give this to because I don't want this. Similar-ish vibes apply here. If you're giving something for free, it's never truly for free. And it's us using these platforms is at the expense of them having full control of what to do, when, how. And I honestly believe the best way to protect that community you've built is through creating a newsletter. So let's actually get into how to do this consistently so that you can move your hard-earned community to a place of the internet you actually own. Because when you have that list of email addresses of people in your community, that's yours. You own that. Meta can't knock on your door and demand you send it back to them because, it's not on Meta anymore. It's in your records and your databases. Of course, could something happen to your Kit or your MailChimp? Absolutely. I also, side note, recommend just doing downloads of so you can export your subscribers' email addresses and things like that so you can have an actual copy, an actual Excel file or a sheet file of those contacts, of those email addresses and names on your computer, or upload it to, your cloud, storage, whatever, just in case, making sure you always have contact information for people who want to show up for you. So consistency in newsletter creation. Honestly, it can be as easy as sending a text message. And if that seems far-fetched, then it's probably because you have fallen down the trap of learning too much information about how to build an email campaign and newsletter. I don't need you to be an email marketing expert. I don't need you to fall into a career of email marketing, which you totally can and would be so sick, but that is completely unnecessary to send a consistent newsletter that can gain you some cash and protect your online community, get it away from social media. Side note here, before I get into how to make this actually consistent, I don't think social media is this evil thing. I think it is an incredible tool that every single person should be utilizing. However, it is one part of your marketing strategy. It is not the whole thing. It is one pillar of the pillars of your brand's marketing. It is not the marketing. Okay, let's get into the juicy stuff because, we definitely haven't gotten juicy yet. So to be consistent with a newsletter, it needs to be simple for you. And like I said, if sending a newsletter feels like it's going to be harder than sending a text message, then you've just consumed too much information on what a newsletter actually is. Honestly, it comes down to 7 steps. Determining the purpose of your newsletter, deciding which sections of your newsletter you will send consistently, choosing an email sending software, designing the content of your newsletter, reviewing, optimizing for mobile, and pressing send. That is what boils down into creating a newsletter. And to be consistent with it, you need to select those sections, decide what sections you want to send, and then fill them with content and send it. And that sounds super overwhelming, I know, but hear me out. 80% of your newsletter content in those repeatable sections. So for example, you might have a section of like, what's new on the podcast? If you subscribe to my content compass, which you can always do below, I have a section, what's new on the podcast, where I share the latest podcast episode. For another creator, I do her newsletter. We have a section called, have you seen it yet? And that is highlighting one of her posts that she shared that week from social media just to like get more attention, or, there's so much content online. It's likely her audience hasn't seen that piece of content yet. So to create your newsletter consistently, you're going to be feeding content into those sections. Now, 80% of your newsletter content should come from information you have already shared online. Meaning every time you sit down at your computer to write your newsletter, it doesn't need to come from your brain. It doesn't need to be a new original thought or idea. You need to go back and look at the platforms you share the most content on and pull out information that would be applicable to share in that what's new on the podcast section, or have you seen it yet section, or bucket list destination section or something, and share it there. The other 20% of your newsletter should be content that nobody has seen before. This could be an update about what you were doing this week, or your favorite book you're reading, a new trail you want to go check out. You just booked this crazy flight deal. How'd you do it? Or what's on your mind? That is what people really sign up to your newsletter for, that 20%. And I love to tell people, because it's true, I'm not just saying this to say it, the things I share in my newsletter, I often share before they are shared on social media. So if you are subscribing to my newsletter, you are getting content that nobody else is seeing or getting. And if they do get it, it is months after the fact. That is another draw you can have, one, to just promote your newsletter, but that is the key to being consistent, is to using content you already have. Another key to being consistent with your newsletter is to choose a sending sequence that is not overwhelming. Meaning, if you just start a newsletter, if you're great, I have no idea, I have not started a newsletter before at all, and then you go and start one, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I need to send one every single week. No, you are going to burn yourself out and overwhelm yourself if you start sending a newsletter every single week. You need to choose a sending cadence that is not overwhelming. Maybe that's literally once a month for now. And then you set 2 hours on your calendar, and now you've batched content, newsletter content, for the next 3 months. Insane. It's freaking awesome. So you need to simplify. Less is more, less is better. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I need to get on this shit. It's been a minute since I've sent my last newsletter, or I have been yeah, I know a newsletter is something I need to do, and I just haven't done it. I have a 7-day newsletter challenge that is completely self-paced. This means you can sign up for this challenge. When you sign up, you immediately get a welcome email. And the following day, it starts a sequence of 7 emails to you, one every day, with tasks in them to get you from absolutely zero with your newsletter to sending it to subscribers who love you in 7 days. You'll also be equipped with the strategies you need to gain subscribers month over month. And you'll even have the opportunity to steal my very best strategies to gain newsletter subscribers that I don't tell anybody who isn't a client. In this challenge, you will get everything you need to create a newsletter. This means there's no more guessing. There's no more Googling, guessing of what's going to be working in your newsletter. because I have boiled down everything I've learned for the past 3 years on how to start a newsletter and gain subscribers in this challenge in the most simplest form. I don't overwhelm you, and I don't provide information without providing you opportunities for action on that information, because otherwise it's just more noise without guidance. This has actual steps that you need to complete every day. That's why the content comes to you one day at a time. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't need the first few days, I need to skip ahead. Great, cool. You totally can. You can just wait for those days to come to you, get excited again, and then get after it. And I think one of the best parts of this 7-day challenge is that as your business grows, the strategies you need to gain subscribers and keep your newsletter consistent don't change. They, in fact, will just get easier, to be honest, because you'll have a bigger audience. And so gaining subscribers will be so much easier. So not only do you get an email every single day of action you can take to complete the step to get your newsletter sorted, you'll also get a PDF within that email that has the same content as the email, but just in a PDF version in case reading through a long email is just like not your vibe. I totally understand. I get it. So what is in this 7 days? Like, what are you even going to freaking learn? Okay. So day 1, we're deciding on the purpose of your newsletter. This might not sound super important, but I think it will help you stay consistent because you have a clear, driven goal of why you even created this thing. In day 2 of the challenge, you're going to determine how often you're going to send your newsletter. Like I had mentioned before, I gave a little tidbits about why, or like some reasoning on how you can decide when to send that newsletter. But day 2 is when we get into the nitty gritty. Day 3, we're talking about what you should actually include in your newsletter. What should that content be? What should the sections be? What should you send every single time you sit down to create your newsletter? Day 4, we're setting up Kit. I love Kit. I have a link down below for you if you want to just like jump right in and get started building your own template. Fantastic. But day 4, we are setting it up. I'm showing you exactly what you need to do, what settings you need to have to be in compliance with the anti-spam laws, all that fun stuff. Day 5, we are actually taking the template we've just built on day 4 and we are putting content into it. Day 6, my absolute favorite day, I'm showing you how to gain subscribers. And I'm also keying you in on my favorite strategies to gain newsletter subscribers. Like I said, that I don't tell anybody. You have the opportunity to steal those if you want to inside the challenge, but I give you a couple of ways to gain subscribers in the challenge that I think are fantastic and honestly can help you no matter the size of your audience. Day 7 is when we review the content, we optimize it for mobile, and we press send. Those are what you can expect to experience every single day in the 7-day challenge. If you have any questions about this challenge, please email me, Laura at Travel Content Writing, or DM me on Instagram at Travel Content Writing. I would love to hear from you. A link to join this challenge is going to be below for you. I honestly think if you've made it this far, this is the challenge for you. This is the challenge for you if you've listened this far along and you're like, oh my God, I just finally, there's a way for me to create my newsletter and to finally have it be done. And I can keep it running on autopilot and I can go do all the things I want to do. This is something I'm so excited to offer you. And if a newsletter's been on your back burner, this is the challenge for you. The link to join below will be there. You know how to reach me if you have questions. I would love to hear from you. Thank you to everyone who has been reaching out and saying hi. I appreciate you listening so, so much. I will see you soon. Happy creating. I want to subscribe to your newsletter. Okay? And I'll see you next week.